The kitchen at elevation wasn't just loud, it roared. Steel pots clanged like cymbals, orders flew like bullets. Steam hissed from vents and fryers, curling through the cramped Chicago kitchen like ghosts looking for a way out. Amid the chaos, Chef Maxwell Richards barked orders with the sharpness of a cleaver. He wasn't just in charge, he was law. "You call this sear golden?" Maxwell thundered, holding up a lamb chop like it was an insult. "This is beige. Beige is for walls, not meat." A junior line cook winced. Another cook oversalted a sauce, and Maxwell tossed the pan in the sink with a hiss of steam and shame. No one talked back, not because he was right, but because he was untouchable. At the far end of the line, unnoticed, stood Amy. Her hands moved quickly but quietly, chopping herbs with almost meditative focus. She didn't shout, she didn't correct, she just cooked. To everyone else, Amy was the temp, a late hire who came in with average references and no real resume. She said she'd studied in community kitchens, bounced around diners. People thought she was harmless, humble, maybe even a little dull, but Amy had secrets. At night, after her shift, she wrote in a battered leather notebook, fingers still smelling faintly of thyme and garlic. The pages weren't about Maxwell, not directly. They were about grace, about cooking when no one was looking, about food as healing, not competition, what no one knew, not the waitstaff, not the sous chefs, and certainly not Maxwell, was that Amy's real name was Amelia Hartwell. And 8 years ago, Amelia had stood in a kitchen in Paris, smiling numbly as she was handed her third Michelin-Star. She was 26, she was famous, and she was miserable. So she walked away. No announcement, no goodbye, just left her knives on the table and disappeared like a ghost into the wind. Now, in the sweltering kitchen of elevation, she'd found a kind of quiet peace, until Maxwell noticed her. He hadn't noticed her cooking. Not really. What he noticed was that she never flinched when he yelled, never trembled like the others. That bothered him. So one Thursday afternoon, during a pre-shift meeting before a VIP tasting dinner, Maxwell pointed a finger down the line and said, "You, Amy, since you're so damn calm all the time, how about you make the beef Wellington tonight?" The kitchen went still. Maxwell's beef Wellington wasn't just a dish, it was a test. Layers of puff pastry, mushroom duxelles, rare filet mignon cooked to perfection. Even the sous chefs hated doing it. One mistake and the whole thing collapsed like a soufflé in a storm. Amy looked up, her expression unreadable. "Yes, chef," she said quietly. Maxwell smirked. He had no idea he'd just issued a challenge to Amelia Hartwell, and that by midnight, the kitchen would never be the same. The kitchen at elevation that night felt like it had swallowed its own breath. No one said it aloud, but everyone knew. Maxwell had set a trap. You didn't assign your most complex dish to the quietest, most untested cook on a night with Evelyn Harper, the toughest food critic in Chicago, seated in the private room. "You sure you know what beef Wellington even is?" one of the line cooks whispered to Amy, his tone half mocking, half pitying. "That ain't a diner burger." Amy gave a small smile. "I've seen it before." She didn't offer more. Maxwell passed behind her, arms crossed, voice oozing with theatrical contempt. "I want medium rare, not well, flaky, golden pastry. Mushrooms should sing, not weep." "Yes, chef," Amy said. "Any mess on the cutting board, you're out." "Yes, chef." He stared at her, waiting for a flicker of nerves. He got none, only steady, even hands unwrapping the fillet. Amy worked in silence. She patted the beef dry and seasoned it like she was waking it up. Every move was precise but unhurried. She set it aside to rest and began sautéing the mushrooms with shallots and thyme. The aroma drifted upward, earthy and rich. A sous chef glanced over, surprised. Next came the prosciutto, carefully layered into a mosaic on the cling film. Then the mushroom mixture. Then the seared beef, rolled up tight like a secret letter. Maxwell peeked over her shoulder, expecting clumsiness. What he saw instead was flawless technique, and something else, restraint. She wasn't showing off. She was listening to the ingredients, not dominating them. Amy wrapped the Wellington in puff pastry and glazed it lightly with egg wash. She scored it with the back of a paring knife in elegant crisscrosses. Even the pattern was familiar, like something Maxwell had seen before but couldn't place. "Who taught you that score?" he asked suddenly. She didn't look up. "I don't remember." He scowled and walked off. As the pastry browned in the oven, Amy turned to clean her station. She moved like someone who'd done this 1,000 times, because she had, in Paris, in Tokyo, in Rome, but always under her real name, Amelia Hartwell. By 8:35 p.m., the Wellington was done. Amy removed it from the oven. The crust glowed with golden perfection, and when she sliced into it, the beef blushed gently, perfectly pink in the center. No bleeding, no soggy pastry. Even the usually smug plating chef hesitated. "This is actually beautiful." Amy nodded once. "Please take it to table 7. Now." It was the first time she gave an order. When the server delivered the plate to Evelyn Harper, the entire kitchen froze. Maxwell leaned against the prep table, arms folded, waiting for disaster or confirmation. Evelyn took one bite, then paused. Then another. She wiped her mouth and leaned toward the maitre d'. "Send my compliments to the chef. This is exceptional." The compliment hit Maxwell like a slap. His lips parted. Amy returned to her station, wiping her blade clean. Not triumphant, not smug, just still. The applause from the dining room was faint, but it echoed through the steel bones of the kitchen like thunder. No one clapped inside Elevation's kitchen, but something had changed. Cooks exchanged glances. Someone muttered, "She nailed it." Another asked quietly, "Who is she, really?" Amy ignored them. She stacked her knives, wiped her station, and returned to her quiet rhythm, as if she hadn't just executed a dish that left a legendary critic speechless. But Maxwell? He couldn't look away. He watched her hands as they folded her apron, the way she cleaned the knife blade edge to edge like it was sacred. There was a grace to it. A memory surfaced, uninvited. Paris, 2014. A food journal article titled, "The Girl with the Golden Hands." The photo had been black and white, but the eyes in it looked familiar. Maxwell shoved the thought away. He marched into his office after service, slamming the door so hard the sous chefs flinched. The room was filled with newspaper clippings, food awards, Michelin maps, and old photo spreads from Gastronome Monthly. Most were of him, but in the bottom drawer was a file he hadn't touched in years. Amelia Hartwell, the wunderkind who vanished at her peak. Out of morbid curiosity, he pulled the folder open. There it was, a dish, a beef Wellington. Scored just like tonight's. Same presentation, same parsley oil swirl on the side, and that same strange restraint, elegant, precise, quiet. He stared at the picture, then at the plating photo a server had snapped earlier on his phone. His hand clenched. Back in the kitchen, Amy clocked out quietly. Most of the staff nodded at her, some with respect, others with wary awe. The ones who used to tease her now avoided her eyes. Maxwell intercepted her at the back door. "You," he said, breath short. "Where'd you train?" She blinked. "A few places, mostly hands-on." He stepped closer, voice low and sharp. "That Wellington, that technique, that's not community kitchen stuff." Amy said nothing. "I know who you are," Maxwell whispered, fire dancing behind his eyes. "You're Amelia Hartwell." Silence stretched between them like a tightrope. Amy didn't flinch. "I was," she finally said. That one sentence cracked the air open. Maxwell's mouth parted. "You've been in my kitchen, pretending to be nobody?" "I wasn't pretending," she said softly. "I left that life. It broke me." He stared at her, trying to reconcile the woman in front of him with the legend who vanished mid-service in Paris. "You walked away from all of it. Why?" Amy looked at him, really looked. "Because I loved cooking, and it stopped loving me back." Maxwell had no comeback. The noise of the kitchen clattered behind him. Inside he ruled with control. Out here he felt small. Amy turned to go, her words leaving a trail. You tried to humiliate me, Max. You just didn't know I'd already been broken and rebuilt myself stronger. Quietly. She didn't wait for his response. She just walked out the back door, like smoke after a fire. Maxwell didn't sleep that night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the name Amelia Hartwell echoing louder than any chef's yell. Images chased him, magazine covers, plated masterpieces, interviews where she spoke in calm riddles about flavor, harmony, stillness. How had she ended up under his roof? And more pressing, why had he needed to break her to see her? By morning, Maxwell returned to elevation with dark circles under his eyes and a stomach full of unease. He found Amy already in the prep kitchen, dicing carrots with the same precise calmness as always. Her sleeves rolled neatly, hair tied back, expression peaceful. She didn't look like a prodigy. She looked like someone who'd learned how to breathe again. "You came back," Maxwell said stiffly. Amy didn't look up. "Of course." His voice dropped. "Why?" "I humiliated you. I tried to." She paused. "You only tried to do what the industry taught you to do, break people before they break you." The words hit deep. "Then why stay?" he asked. She turned to him, voice quiet but certain. "Because your kitchen is full of scared talent, and I remember what it's like to be scared in a place built to create joy." That day, something shifted. Amy didn't take over. She didn't announce her identity, but she started teaching, not like a master, like a peer. She showed one cook how to reduce a sauce without burning it, taught another how to hold a blade without white-knuckling it, whispered encouragements during chaotic prep rushes. Most shockingly, she asked for help, inviting collaboration instead of issuing commands. And slowly, the kitchen softened. Cooks who used to compete now shared techniques. A dishwasher who kept to himself started arriving early just to watch her work. Maxwell stood in the doorway, watching it all unfold like a man witnessing his own restaurant for the first time. He tried mimicking her posture, offering feedback without snapping, saying good instead of finally. One day he even asked her awkwardly, "How did you get people to trust you so fast?" Amy smiled gently. "I didn't yell." The staff laughed, a first in that kitchen. And with each passing day, Maxwell realized something uncomfortable. He hadn't actually led his team in years. He'd driven them, intimidated them, but leadership, that required presence, listening, trust. By week's end, the mood and elevation had transformed. People stayed late to learn, not just because they had to. Even the food tasted different, lighter, more vibrant, more joyful. Amy never gave a speech. She didn't need to. Her presence was the lesson. And Maxwell, he found himself not just learning from her, but unlearning everything that had made him the chef he thought he had to be. The news broke on a Monday. A blurry photo appeared on a food blog captioned, "Michelin Ghost. Is Amelia Hartwell secretly cooking in Chicago?" It wasn't a recent picture, more like an echo from the past, but the internet didn't care. The story exploded across social media. By lunchtime, Elevation's reservation line had crashed. Reporters loitered outside the alleyway entrance. Influencers recorded TikToks in front of the restaurant, hoping to catch a glimpse of the fallen star. Inside, the kitchen buzzed with confusion. Amy hadn't shown up yet. Maxwell stood in the middle of the floor, arms folded, mind spinning. He could hear whispers from the staff. "Is it true? She's really her? Why wouldn't she tell us?" He shut them all up with a glare, but even that had lost its edge. When Amy finally walked in through the back door, wearing her usual black apron and calm expression, the room fell silent. She paused, eyes scanning the crew. She'd seen the articles, felt the pressure, but she walked in anyway. Maxwell met her gaze. "I should have seen it coming," he muttered. "The way you move, the way you touch ingredients like you're asking for permission." Amy gave a sad smile. "I was hoping the world had forgotten me." It didn't. He handed her a printed copy of the article. "They're calling you a fraud." She took it. Didn't react. "They always called me something." You lied to me, Maxwell said flatly. No, she replied. I just stopped telling people who I used to be. He looked at her then, really looked, not the cook, not the former star, the woman who rebuilt his kitchen piece by piece, with patience, not ego. Outside, voices shouted toward the alley. She'll bring the wrong kind of attention, said the assistant manager. You want your kitchen on TV for a scandal? She saved this place, said a junior line cook, surprising even himself. Maxwell turned to Amy. What do you want me to do? She folded the paper gently, hands steady. Nothing. If this is the end, I'm okay with that. But Maxwell wasn't. For the first time in years, he felt clarity. Not about profits or headlines, but about loyalty. He stepped onto the pass line, raised his voice. Listen up. Yes, Amy is Amelia Hartwell, but if you think that changes anything, you're wrong. The staff blinked. She's the same person who taught you to stir with your heart, not your wrist. The same one who helped us stop cooking like machines. He looked back at her. And if any of you leak another photo or feed this fire, you're out. No one spoke. Amy's eyes shimmered, not with fear, but something quieter. Gratitude. Maxwell nodded toward the prep board. Chef Hartwell, your station's open. And just like that, the kitchen picked up again. This time, united. The storm of media buzz faded by the following week. Most of the vultures moved on after realizing Amy wasn't interested in interviews or comebacks. She declined all press, ignored every podcast invite. Her only comment was a short sentence to the maitre d', I'm just cooking. But inside Elevation, something remarkable had taken root. The kitchen pulsed with new life. Maxwell wasn't barking orders, he was mentoring. The staff laughed more, shared more. They no longer feared being wrong, they feared being uninspired. Amy guided quietly, letting others step forward. She taught the youngest line cook how to make duck confit without a thermometer, coached the pastry chef through a soufflé disaster without blame. Even Maxwell admitted once, mumbling over a hot plate, you know, that brioche technique, it works better. One evening, Evelyn Harper returned, requesting a chef's choice tasting menu. Amy cooked the entire thing without speaking, her hands telling the story. Evelyn wrote a glowing follow-up article titled, The Star That Shines Where No One Looks. But Amy knew her time at Elevation was ending. One night, she stayed late, alone. The kitchen was dark, lit only by the oven's orange glow. She pulled out her leather notebook and flipped to the last page. There, she wrote down a simple recipe. It wasn't flashy. No foie gras, no truffles. Just her mother's tomato soup, roasted garlic, heirloom tomatoes, fresh basil, and a splash of cream. She placed the handwritten page inside a clean envelope and left it on Maxwell's desk. Beneath it, a note. Cook with love. That's all the Michelin stars in the world can't teach you. A.H. In the morning, she was gone. No farewell speech, no teary goodbye. Just vanished like she did years ago in Paris, only this time she left healed, not broken. Maxwell found the envelope after his second espresso. He stared at the tomato soup recipe like it was a sacred text. The staff found out hours later. For a moment, they were stunned. Then, slowly, they got back to work. Only now everything tasted different. Weeks passed. Maxwell announced a new cookbook collaboration, The Heart of the Plate, by M. Sir Richards and A. Hartwell. No photos, just stories, sketches, recipes, and quotes from chefs who cooked to heal, not to conquer. The book sold out within days. Elevation became more than a restaurant. It became a sanctuary. A place where struggling cooks found hope again. A place where people believed in food, not just as art, but as connection. And in New Orleans, far from headlines and fame, Amy stirred a pot of gumbo in a modest corner cafe. A chalkboard sign outside read, Today's Special. Love simmered low and slow. Someone once asked her name. She smiled and simply said, Amy.